All right. Well, maybe we'll just go ahead and start. And Leah, will you just keep track of participants and admit them as they come in, please? Thank you. We'll be recording this to then share on our residency page. So anyone who wasn't able to be here, I know some people registered knowing they couldn't be here, but we'll send the link to them and then post it as well. So thanks so much for being here. I'm going to start sharing my screen in just a second. Oh, if I can get it to the right page. Okay. So welcome. This is an info session for our 2024 Lanesboro Artist Residency Program. And yeah, we're going to talk about the residency itself, a little bit about Lanesboro, and then we'll go into some other things as well. But to start with, this is who you kind of see on our phone call or our Zoom call today. My name is Melissa Wray. I'm the Lanesboro Arts Program Director, and I manage the Artist Residency Program here at Lanesboro Arts. There, I included my email there. So if you need to contact me with any questions at any point, feel free to write that down and yeah, give me a call. And then we have with us today Akiko Ostlund, who was an artist in residence in 2022. Akiko, do you want to say anything to welcome yourself or introduce yourself? I think you're on mute. Oops. There we go.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm just, happy to be here. I had so much wonderful experiences while I was there. So I'm really happy to share those experiences with you.
Thanks, Akiko. And then you'll see Leah is here as well. Leah is our program associate, and she'll be taking care of kind of the back end of when we have questions that come up. She'll save them in the chat for the Q&A at the end. But if at any point you have a question, just put it into the chat so she can start to gather those, and we'll make sure we get to them at the end. So thanks, Leah, for being here as well. Okay. So a little bit to start with about Lanesboro Arts. Lanesboro Arts, we're a multidisciplinary nonprofit arts organization, and we're based here in southeastern Minnesota in a rural community called Lanesboro. So if you haven't been, we'll talk a little bit more about our community in a moment. But I'm going to also do this quick. Okay. So we have a lot of different program areas, and I think I like to mention these just to give some context, but also so that when artists in residence apply, they kind of know the different avenues that we have that we could potentially use some partnerships or something to help support an artist's work. So we have Lanesboro Arts Gallery, we have two historic buildings. So this is one of our historic buildings. And we have the visual art represented there in both the Sales Gallery, which has about 90 regional artists from Minnesota, basically the tri-state area. And then we also have an exhibition gallery in the back that rotates every 3 months, and that hosts a variety of artists, and it could be everything from emerging artists to sometimes we have group shows around specific themes. Right now we have a group show around our 30th gallery anniversary. So there's been a lot of artists over the years that are represented right now. Sometimes we have solo shows, and that's a whole different application process to get in that sales gallery or exhibition gallery, but we have both of those spaces available as well. The other historic building that we operate is the St. Main Theater, which is where we house our performing arts. In the small stage we have there, we have about 109 seats, I think, in that theater right now. And the upstairs, so the theater's on the main floor downstairs, and then the upstairs is where we'll talk a little bit about this because that is where the artists in residence live and work. And it also is the home of our youth education programs, which Leah really manages. And we have a studio space upstairs that is where a lot of those classes happen. We also do a lot of public art initiatives, and we call it the Arts Campus, which is the idea that our whole community, our whole town of Lanesboro is part of an arts campus, and that we want to use art to activate different spaces within our community and to solve problems, everything from wayfinding signage all the way to like big public murals that we've done. Recently, we just installed a mural as well. So that's another initiative we do. We have a huge event once a year called Art in the Park, which has over 90 artists who come and present their work and sell their work. And it's at a big park in town here. And we have live music, food vendors, all that good stuff. A lot of youth art activities as well at that. And then we have our 2 residency programs. Our traditional residency program, which is what this is, that's been in existence for a while now, is the Lanesboro Artist Residency Program, and that's funded through the Jerome Foundation. And then we're in the just leaving the pilot round and moving into eventually posting more information and application information for the BIPOC Artist Residency Program, which is a new thing that we're working on. And we had a pilot round of residencies over the winter and spring, and then we're going to be launching that publicly in the fall. So excited about that as well. Lanesboro. So if you haven't been, this is our main street that we have pictured in these photos here, but we're a small town of about 750 permanent residents in southeast Minnesota here. We're in Fillmore County, so it's the very southeastern corner, almost right by Iowa and bordering Wisconsin as well. And then we're a small town with a big seasonal tourism industry. We have the seasonal tourism comes around in the summer mostly because we have the Root River that runs right through town. We have the Root River bike trail that also runs through town. And so a lot of people come here for those different outdoor recreation activities. We also have a really great arts community in that we have the Commonweal Theater here, that is a year-round theater company that produces plays. We have different artists and art tours that operate out of here. So there's a lot of that seasonal tourism, as well as we have, of course, a huge agricultural community around us and the outdoor recreation community as well. So that's just some good context to know. These demographics are not from the most recent census. I couldn't find those really quickly, but this is just to give some context of our community demographics. We are predominantly white community, but I know this is also changing. Some of these demographics have been changing since the census was done. But I always want to let people know what our community is before they decide if they want to be here in residence. The Lanesboro Artist Residency Program. So now I'll jump into some details about it. We offer a stipend per week, and that's at $1,250 per week. And we can offer either 2 or 4 week-long residencies. So you would take that amount times whatever amount of weeks that you're here. Typically, we do 4 week-long residencies. That's what Akiko did. But we do have 2 artists this year that opted for the 2-week residencies. So it's a much more condensed, focused residency. So there's pros and cons to both, but we just like to offer both because we know not everyone can take a month away from their home and their life, and so we like to offer both of those as well. And so that depends. Because of that, we can either offer 2 or 3 artists residencies a year because we typically do a month-long residency at least once, and then maybe if we have 2 2-week ones, we can offer 3 artists per year these residencies. So I know it's a very limited amount of artist residencies that we can bring in every year, but I like to encourage people to keep applying because we hope to get through to offer people residencies as we go on. Another part of what makes our residency specifically a little different is that we want place-based projects. So we really want the artists to bring their art practice to our community and to share with our community what that process looks like, and to have both the artist influenced by the community and have the community influenced by the artist. So there's that cross-cultural conversation happening, our community conversation happening. And we also ask that we are working with emerging artists, which I'll go a little further into definition in a moment, but that's through the Jerome Foundation. They really offer support for emerging artists specifically, but it can be all disciplines. So, any art form, we will make it happen. And then the other stipulation to the Jerome Foundation is that they have to be artists from the state of Minnesota or the 5 boroughs of New York City. That is where they currently offer their funding. So eligibility and stipend details. I have a lot of questions that come in around this. So artists of all disciplines, like I said, are eligible and encouraged to apply. The piece about, being from Minnesota or the 5 boroughs of New York City. So the artists must be legal residents of one of those places and have been for a year prior to their application submission. So, and then again, the artists are paid $1,250 stipend per week, and they are also provided with a studio and lodging space as part of the residency program. We don't cover material or transportation costs, so those have to be factored into that stipend as well. We do offer costs in terms of the events that happen here with the community. We cover that cost, but for the artist-specific materials during their work is covered by that stipend. We do allow artist groups to apply, but that weekly stipend is the same per residency. So that must be split among the collective. So that's something to consider if artist groups are applying. And then we, as a staff, work with each individual artist to really customize the residency and making sure that we've got the resources and connections to really make the time and project in Lanesboro really happen. And then we also ask that the primary goal of the artist is to generate new work as opposed to reinterpreting existing works. So that can still be an extension of a project. We had an artist who had a series of a multimedia performance that had a couple iterations, and they just did an iteration that was focused on their conversations with community members here in Lanesboro. So you can add on to works, but we do ask that it's generating some new work. Emerging artists. So this is the definition. We get a lot of questions about what does emerging artist mean? And so this is how we've kind of worked with the Jerome Foundation to figure out what this is. So it's an individual who has great potential in artistic practice, but has not yet received major recognition, or has not been substantially celebrated for their work, and or is not yet established significant footing within their field. So our panelists, when they're reviewing applications, are really looking at the significant scope, geography, and timing of the previous exhibitions, critical reviews, commissions, performances, grant awards, residencies, fellowships, et cetera, et cetera. So basically we say emerging artists typically have no more than 3 of those major professional accomplishments that we noted here in that list. There is some gray area because we know that that can be, a very murky category to figure out if you're emerging or not. So if you have questions around that, feel free to reach out to me directly. We also say that if you've been doing your artistic practice for, over 10 years, it probably isn't emerging, but it still could be if you haven't had any of these major professional accomplishments. So again, just feel free to reach out to me and ask me, and we can talk through that. We also can't offer this residency to any degree seeking students who are degree seeking at the time of the application or during the grant period of which it would offer. So 2024. Age is not a factor at all in determining emerging artist. So the lodging that we provided, like I said, typically they're in our St. Main Theater, and it's the 2nd floor, which is not currently ADA accessible. This historic building, it's been challenging to figure out how to get a elevator in there. So, but that's a long-term vision. We do offer ADA accessible lodging. We just need to arrange that in advance with the artist. But otherwise, this is our lodging space that we have. We have some photos here. You'll see that there's a private bedroom and a private bathroom. There's also this combined studio and kitchen space. So it's a kitchen there in the corner, as you can see in the far corner. And then there's also this front area is all open space that can be used however the artist wants to use that. Some people kind of convert it into like a living room if I live there. Some people have it to be an actual studio where they spread things out and spread their work out. It's really up to the artist how they want to utilize that space. There is an additional room in the back of this long hallway where all these rooms are. That is our green room traditionally when we have performances, but other artists have utilized that as kind of overflow space for their work, or maybe, a meditation space or whatever they want it to be. So that's just a glance at that. And this is on our main street here in Lanesboro, this theater. So it's right centrally located in our town. So whenever we do accept a residency, we have kind of a sample schedule that we work with. It traditionally starts with some sort of welcome event, and often we like to do potlucks just because it's a really engaging and formal way to get to know someone and to share kind of our community with each other and with the artists. But that can look in a lot of different ways. So a welcome event is usually within the first couple of days of the artist arriving. And then we ask that each week that the artist is here, that there's some sort of weekly workshop or skill sharing opportunity, open studio, whatever that looks like, but there's some sort of formal way for the community to come in and engage with that artist and learn something from the artist and vice versa. So again, that can look like a lot of different things. Akiko can talk a little bit about what she did during her residency, but some sort of at least once a week interaction with the community. And then we like to leave the rest of the time really, open for the artists to work on their own work. We do always supply a list of other optional community events that are happening, because some artists like to really engage with local events, some like prefer not to. It's really up to the artist. But there's things that we have every week, like open mic and trivia that happen in town that are nice informal ways to get to know people. And then we also have, if you come in April, like Akiko did, there's a studio art tour that you get to go around and meet a lot of different artists in the area. And even if you don't come in April, we would happily arrange connecting with local artists that way too. So that's always an offer. And then the residency usually culminates in some sort of capstone work in progress event. So we like to use that event to really show the community what the artist did during their time here, maybe what they learned from the community or how it's going to influence their work going forward, and share anything that they've been working on during that residency period. So that's just a really quick overview of what we typically do during a schedule. And now I'm going to turn it over to Akiko, and she'll talk a little bit about what she does. Oops, I think I have to ask you to unmute again. Leah, could you do that where I can't get it to it right here? If you could ask Akiko to unmute.
Got it.
I got it. Yeah. So what I did a lot. I'm a community engaging artist. I'm more of an activist who use art, so maybe not a traditional sense of artist. So this fits me perfectly. And I did open studio. I did visit Melissa's parents' farm. That was really fun. Oh my gosh. And then I did a workshop at the brewery, and yeah, went to school even. Yeah, so that was kind of fun. It was busy, but also I was, like Melissa said, I was there in April, so I went to art tour with Chris, who's in charge of the gallery, and I had so much fun getting to know artists, the local artists, because surprisingly, there are so many artists here, so artists there in Lanesboro. So that was really nice to get to know what they're doing. And also, not everybody's local Lanesboro people. There are so many retired people from Minneapolis to St. Paul. So yeah, it's definitely a small town, but very, I don't know, progressive and artsy. It's an artsy community, isn't it, Melissa?
It
Yeah.
is.
So yeah, that's what I did. And yeah, what else
Is there
should
anything
I?
that like surprised you either about the community or the residency itself? Anything that you thought, yeah.
Well, so like it's very white, like the census said. That's just about right, yeah, so like I went to school, and then there's one biracial girl, and then that was it, as far as I know. um yeah, racially speaking, yeah, she was only one BIPOC. And so that's right, there's no surprise, so be ready. If you're not white, you're going to be in the white space, but also, like, you're alone a lot of times. It's not like you're going to be surrounded by people at all time. It's just that, you know there's not very many people to begin with. So I didn't find it suffocating, being a brown immigrant. I had no problem, but that's for me. And what's surprising is that the restaurant is not going to be open. So if you get there, make sure that you have enough food for the day, maybe yeah, a few days, let's say like a few days worth of food, because there might be a good chance that things are not going to be open when you get there. And I know we all artists, just pack everything and then like just close up the day job and finish sending all the emails and then just get in the car thinking that once I get there, everything is going to be fine. But on the store, there's not very many stores and restaurants. So, and for the most part, it's going to be closed if you, depending on like, when you go, but like if it's not a tourist season, definitely, most likely, very few stores and restaurants are going to be open. So that's something you might want to think about. There's Trader Joe's, in, where's that? What's
Rochester.
that? Rochester. Yeah. So you can stop by there and then you have a kitchen. So there's that. And material, if you're a visual artist, basic material you can find in the studio. So that's, you don't have to bring a whole lot of stuff. You don't have to, probably, you don't have to bring glue gun, glue, scissors, stuff like that. Yeah. And it does get lonely. So if you're a people person, be ready for that, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something too. We've revised our welcome packet to include a lot of that information, like which stores are open when, and during the off season when Akiko was here was April, so a lot of things do have more limited hours in the winter and colder months. So we'll definitely provide that information and have that in our welcome packet as well. But it's good to just know in advance that that's a thing. And we always try to work, I think we try to balance the respect of, if some artists really like to be alone and working most of their time when they're not doing the interactions with the community at the events, and some people don't, and we try to, so feel free to have that conversation with us, and we want to make sure that we're helping people connect with who they want to connect with, and also respecting space when people want that. So
I did everything. I did like literally everything. I just kind of like, I did even like a podcast and then the radio. Didn't we do radio too?
yep, you did. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was really fun. Yeah, I had so much fun. And also, this was like, for me, but there's Root River, and that was really special. It was a blessing that there's that river the whole time I was there. I really loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Beautiful river. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's within walking distance, like a couple blocks to the River. So it's a nice place to be. And that's an example of what Akiko was saying, depending on the artist and their interests, we can really curate those connections. So Akiko has worked with young people before. So we connected her with our high school art class and a teacher. And she did a couple workshops there. We've done, we have a great relationship with our local brewery that is very family friendly brewery, even though it serves beer, but they also serve other things, non-alcoholic beverages. And they have a food truck now and everything. So there's a lot of different connections that we can make, or we can also host events in our own spaces, in our own buildings too. So there's a lot of flexibility. And Akiko was really excited about doing a podcast interview. So we did that in the radio. So there's a lot of opportunities to really curate these experiences to the artist. So yeah.
And also there's Stena is there, and there are so many teachers who will like come and help you and be supportive. And yeah, they were like guardian angels, who just like come and then they like tell you a lot of like things. Oh, like there's a gym, and there's like 24/7 gym, and then like here's that, like do you want mushroom, all that all that stuff. So yeah, it was just such a blessing to get to know those people. And I just took it as the beginning of a long-term relationship. So like I really encourage people to, really connect with people who's in Lanesboro, because you might find it like I do, it's just like a beginning of a long-term years, long relationship. And that's really exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you, Akiko. I'm sure we'll have
Yeah.
questions for you, but it's always nice just to hear a little bit about, yeah, different people's experiences. All right. So a little bit diving into the application itself, because I know there's often a lot of questions around that. But the application is through an online web form on the Lanesboro Arts website. Leah, maybe you can even link to it in the chat so people can have that available. But it is a web form, so you can see all the questions right away. So you can preview it, you can, start a document, maybe take your time to really work through that before you put it into the web form. But we like that it's transparent that way. So you can see what you're going to be asked. And then the Lanesboro Arts residencies, oops, sorry, this is supposed to say 2024, but they can be scheduled anytime in 2024, except for June, which is when we have that big event, Art in the Park. And so our time is pretty limited that month. But we do prefer kind of that April or August timeline. It just fits really well with other community groups that use our spaces at the St. Main Theater specifically. So, but we can work with most other times of the year. It's just we need to, schedule logistically a little bit more. But April and August are always very easy to plug people in, and we'll work around everything else. And so we ask artists to list, some top three choices of dates for the residency. Obviously that can change, but it just gives us a good idea of what time of year, like if you have a project that's very time of year specific, that helps us kind of narrow down what we can do. And that doesn't influence the timing of, or who's chosen necessarily. It's just more for us to kind of have that context of when this might happen. And once a person is selected for a residency, then we work with you to determine what those exact dates would be. And I guess I did link to the application here, but we'll do that at the end, but I think Leah put it in the chat as well. Thank you, Leah. So selection criteria, there's more about this on our guidelines page on the website too, but we're kind of looking in two areas specifically. And I should back up. So whenever we get the applications, we have a panel of usually 4 artists from across the state that have a wide variety of backgrounds to review these applications. And then we have a rubric, a very intense rubric that we score everything with along these selection criteria. And then we have discussions that we meet with the artists who are the panelists. And then we eventually kind of have some finalists that the panel selects. And then we work with the Jerome Foundation to really figure out, and based on everything else, all the other logistics of how many, we can offer, what it looks like, time of year, all of that at the very end. So the selection criteria that the panelists are using, so artistic quality is one area. And what we mean by that is there an original voice or vision for this project or this artist? Does it show artistic development within this artist's career? Is there an artistically consistent body of work that we get a sense of what this artist's work is about? And then we go into project quality, which for us is we're looking at, what does this proposed project show that it's adding value to this artist's career or artistic growth as an emerging artist specifically? Does this project integrate into the community and vice versa? Is there that community component in there? And does it seem like it's a feasible, accomplishable timeline? Especially with 2-week residencies, that's something we really look at is, do we think this can be done in 2 weeks? Because often a month does feel like a really great time period, but some can happen in 2 months or 2 weeks. So those are things that we look at whenever we're reviewing applications. And the application timeline is, so for the 2024 residencies, the deadline is coming up in 1 month on Friday, July 28th, and that's at 12 p.m. noon Central Standard Time. And the jury process then for those residency applications will take place in August. And I usually give them a month to review applications because there's so many and it takes time to go through those applications thoughtfully. And then applicants are notified by the end of September then as to the status of their application. And then once usually we have 6, sometimes up to 8 finalists, but usually it's around 6 finalists that I would then do Zoom interviews with. And that takes place in late September as well. And that again is to get a bigger sense or a better sense of what the project would be, how feasible it is, all of those things. And then we notify everyone who the 2 to 3 finalists are, and then runners up in early October. So that's kind of the timeline of when people find out. And then we really start planning after that. So that is the end of my spiel here, but I want to turn to the chat if there's any questions that have come in for either Akiko or myself. And if we don't have questions, that's fine too, but anytime people can feel free to reach out to me directly. My email again is listed there, and we'll be sharing this recording so people can really, take the time to look at it later if they weren't able to make it today as well. So are there any questions?
It looks to me we haven't collected any, though that they could still come in. Great job being so thorough.
Yeah. Well, I'll just give it a couple minutes here, and if anything comes in, we'll take that as it comes. Or if Akiko, if you thought of anything in the meantime, I can stop sharing and we can just have a more. Yeah.
We have a sandwich maker there? Panini maker
We do?
in the kitchen? Do we?
I don't
Do
think
we
so.
have it?
No, but that's a great idea.
I know.
Okay.
I should bring it.
Oh,
Oh, come on the 15th.
okay. Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Yeah, and that is, so we don't have a large grocery store here in Lanesboro. There's a small market that has some very, very basic things, but the nearest larger grocery store is about a 10-minute drive away in Preston, Minnesota. So just a heads up. And if there's, having a car is nice, but it's not necessary. If you don't have a car, just let us know and our staff can easily, help bring it to the grocery store or pick up things, even if you have a list, something like that. So feel free to let us know.
I went to that store every single day.
The Program Market, you mean? Yeah, they have great chocolate, they have coffee. It's a wonderful thing. And we are getting a coffee shop locally, so that'll be a new thing. We didn't have an established coffee shop for a long time, but we are just getting one, so that'll be exciting.
I was just lonely.
Oh.
I would walk to the river, and then I would always, like get some snack at the store.
There's good snacks. Funny. Well, I think then if that's everything, then we'll wrap it up today, but we'll share this recording out and feel free to contact me with questions. Otherwise, we're excited to see people's applications. And thank you, Akiko, for being here, and for Leah for running the back end of this. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I hope a lot of people apply for it, because applying is the beast. And if you feel like, like if you apply for it, you should like just feel great about it, because that's like most of the work.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's such and you have that again, if you want to apply again, if you don't get it the first time you apply, using that similar project and just updating it a bit is just fine to do for the next year. So we keep encouraging people to apply, and if you want direct feedback, I'm happy to give feedback from the panelists as well. So feel free to reach out if you would like. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone.